Welcome to Skill Builder number 3. This week we are going to learn how to create a brand new shapefile in ArcGIS Pro and then how to add records to that layer or shapefile. Then we are going to upload that shapefile to ArcGIS Online and create a web map via the web map builder. Lastly, we will change the sharing permissions of the web map and the layer that we created so that others can view the map. So to get started, open up ArcPro and create a new blank map template for your Skill Builder 3. I already created one, so I'm going to open that up. And then I'm going to go ahead and change my base map to imagery, hybrid, and then I'm going to connect to a folder from our Skill Builder 2. And let's see if I can go back. So Skill Builder 2 data, just because I want to add that county boundary layer again. So I'm going to add that in and then make it hollow. And then I'm going to go ahead and save my map. So we are going to create a new point vector layer. To do this, you need to open your catalog pane. And you are going to navigate to the geodatabase that was created when you created this project for Skill Builder 3, this map project. So just go to database, and you can see right now my Skill Builder 3 map database does not have any data in it, but this is where we're going to create our new layer. So right click on the name of the database and navigate to the new, click on new, and we are going to create a new feature class. Feature class is another word for shapefile or layer. Esri started calling layers feature classes when they created ArcPro and developed the sharing capabilities that ArcPro has with their ArcGIS Online web mapping. So we're going to create a feature class, and earlier I made my create feature class pane really big so that you guys can see it easily. And since this is the first time you will be creating a layer or shapefile or feature class, we are going to create something that's a bit silly so that the stakes are low. So I want you to make a point feature class that displays 7 locations that you have been to either in the state of Arkansas or the city of Little Rock. I'm going to add points of like state parks that I've been to, so you guys will see that in a few minutes. So I'm going to name this Parks. So I don't think we can have any spaces in this name right now. So I'm going to name it Parks, Arkansas, and I'm going to give it an alias of Parks I have visited in Arkansas. And make sure you change this feature class type from polygon to point. And you can leave these geometric properties checked. You can uncheck Z values if you want. That is used to store height values, so like elevation data. And you can leave this add output data set to current map checked. So once we finish going through these 6 steps to create this feature class, it will automatically add itself to the map. So that we were just on the first page, which is basically just the general information of the layer, so the name and the feature class type. When you click next, this is where we are going to be able to add new fields. So I'm going to show you guys how to add new fields. Once again, you can't have spaces, but you can have spaces in the alias. Allow null values. I'm going to change that to no, which means that for every record I add into this new feature class, for this field of year visited, it requires a value. If you keep it on yes, that means that it will accept input of blank data. So I want to make sure that for every every record I add into this, I just want to make sure that I fill out that field. So I'm going to change the default to 2018 because I am going to be adding 7 points of the state parks that I visited in 2018. One of my New Year's resolutions for that year was to visit as many state parks as I could. So now I'm going to add another field, and I'm going to call that park name, and it is a text field. Once again, I'm going to change allow null values to no, and there's no default for that because every park name will be unique. And I don't think I'm going to add any numerical data, but the way if you want to add, like I could have changed this year visited to a date type, and I can go ahead and do that. But I'm going to leave it as text because I just want to put the year of like 2018. I don't want to include like the month and the day that I visited. So I did decide to add a numerical data type to this new feature class. It's a short integer, and I named it park rating, and the alias is park rating out of 5 stars. So I'm just going to put like my rating of the park out of 5 stars, keep it as allow null values no, and then default, I'm going to not have a default in there. And so this is a silly layer, but I just want you guys to practice this workflow because we're going to use it quite a bit throughout the rest of the semester, and you're going to use it during your final project. So now I'm going to go on to the next step. Next, we have not talked about spatial reference or coordinate systems yet. We will cover this in Unit 2, and you're not going to have any favorites selected here, but I do because I've done this quite a bit. So you can go into your search bar and search for what this says here, NAD 1983 UTM Zone 15 North. And go ahead and click on that, and then click Next. In this tolerance, we're not going to change any of the values. You're going to click Next, and we're also not going to change any of the resolution values. You're just going to accept the default. And we don't want to use a configuration keyword. So we're going to click Finish, and it is going to create our feature class. And then I will show you guys how to add records and attribute data to your newly created feature class. So while this is a low stakes feature class that we have created, I do want you guys to meet 2 minimum requirements for the feature class. So I want your created feature class to have 3 fields that you will include information in. So my 3 fields are year visited, park name, and park rating. Your fields can be whatever you want them to be. You just need to have at least 3. And then I want everyone to add at least 7 new records into this feature class. And that is what I will walk you guys through in a minute. Now we are going to add records to our newly created layer. And before I do that, I'm actually going to label my county boundaries so that I can see their names, because that's how I'm going to determine where to put my points. Let's see if that works. Perfect. Okay, so there are a couple ways that we can add records into this table. The first way, which is not the way that I recommend is you can just have your attribute table for the layer open, and you can click here to add a new record, and then I can, so you see it included my pre-recorded value of 2018. You can put in other information, but what it's not going to do is fill in this object ID or this shape field. And so if you enter a record in this way, it's not going to have any geospatial, any like spatial aspect related to it. So I'm going to delete that row. Now I'm going to exit out of the attribute table, and the primary way to add records into a layer is to use the Create Features tool. So you're going to go to the Edit tab, and in this Features group, you're going to click on Create. And this Create Features pane is going to pull up any layers that are editable in my table of contents. So now we can see that this list by editing is actually going to have an impact. So we can't edit these hybrid reference layers. These are the base maps, and you know, those aren't editable. But you can see I turned off these other two layers in here, and now when I open this Create Features pane again, it shows that there are no editable layers. So I'm going to turn this parks I have visited back on, and now to create a feature, we just open this pane and we select the layer that we're interested in. And since this is a point layer, we're not going to have a ton of options in the way that we add the point. However, when we start adding polygons and line layers, we'll see that there's a lot more options. And we'll do that in skill builders in the future, where we are digitizing off of satellite imagery. So we'll have some satellite imagery like this, and we'll have like a polygon layer, and we'll draw the outlines of buildings and such. Okay, I am going to add my first record into this table of places I have visited. And since this is just sort of practice, it's not going to be very exact, but I visited Devil's Den State Park in 2018 with my family, and so it is in Washington County, and I'm going to add a point in this general area. So I need to open that Create Features pane again, make sure I have my point layer selected, and now you can see I have this basically plus sign or crosshairs and a little point following it, and I'm going to add my point right there. And then to change the attributes, let's see, so it's not in the Create Features pane, it is. Now we need to add attributes into this point, so this record, this newly created record, and we can do that in two different ways. You can open your attribute table, and you can see now that this point has both an object ID and a shape, and I can type in here the attribute information, Devil's Den. I'm going to give it 4 stars. It was a pretty cool park. Not the best park though, in my opinion. Okay, so my mom and I actually were very nerdy, and we visited every state park in Arkansas in 2018. There's 52 state parks in Arkansas, and so we visited a park a week. So I'm just going to go to this Lake Fort Smith Park, which is down here somewhere in Crawford County, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to go back to Create Features, or you can see I don't even need to go back to Create Features. This is still live and still allowing me to add new features. So I'm going to add a new point and show you guys the other way to add attributes is in the Edit tab in the Selection group. You can click on Attributes, and then I can type the information in right here. Lake Fort Smith gets a 3. It was all right. And I'm going to click Apply. So what I would recommend when you're adding your points in is, what I usually do is I leave this attribute pane open, and then I'll just add a new point and add the data in there. I'm going to delete that point I just added. So I've added these 2 points, but I have not saved this to the layer. Like right now, it's just sort of in preview mode. It's not actually saved. In order to save, it's a little different than just saving your map project up here. You're going to go to your Edit tab, and in the Manage Edits group, you're going to make sure you click Save. So I went ahead and added 7 records to my Parks I Have Visited feature class. However, I just want to walk you guys through it one more time and maybe be a little bit more explicit about all of the different tools that I'm using. So in order to pan around your map, remember you're going to go to the Map tab and click on Explore. That way you can move your map around and zoom in and out without accidentally adding a point or selecting data. So all the points I added were on the outside of the state, so I'm going to add one for Woolly Hollow, which is up in this area. And so I'm going to go to the Edit tab, click on Create in the Features group, select the layer. So you see I have this Parks layer selected, and click that point. And then notice it's still going to allow me to add other points. So I'm going to not click again until I add the attributes. So I'm going to click the attributes under the Edit tab in the Selection group and type in Woolly. I don't know how this state park is spelled. Let me look it up. 2 O's and 2 L's. Woolly Hollow. Give it a 5. Click Apply. And after you've clicked Apply for the attributes, you're still going to have this Create Features option to add a point, but you're probably going to need to zoom in or out and pan the map around, and you can't do that when you have this Create Features tool live. So what you're going to do is save the edits that you just made, go back to your Map tab, and then in the Navigate group, you're going to click your Explore button, and that will give you this pan tool that will allow you to move around the map without accidentally adding a new point. So I hope that that makes everything a little bit clear and that you guys have a little bit of fun adding points to your map. If you haven't already done this already, I want you to change the symbology for the layer that you created to something that makes sense. So I went into the symbology pane, and in this gallery search bar, I typed in Parks. It pulled up a lot of different options, and I chose, I think I had all styles selected, and I chose this little tree icon. Well, I don't know why it's gone now. Well, I found this tree icon somewhere, and then I changed the shape markers. So I changed the color of the background to green because it was white, and then I changed the tree to brown. I just thought it maybe stood out a little bit more. And so once you have all of your records added to your table, you can go into your attribute table and check to see that you have added everything. That's not what I want. I'm just sort of going to leave this over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm not sure what happened to this one that I forgot to add the name. So you can right click on a record in the attribute table and you can select zoom to, pan to. The zoom to will, it sort of like randomly zooms, but the pan to will pan to a record at the same like zoomed in level that you have. So we can see I'll pan to this Lake Chico. Pan to, and you see we're still pretty zoomed in. Whereas if you're zoomed in, and sometimes if you select the zoom to, it will zoom you out really far. Although they maybe fix that in ArcPro, maybe that's just a feature of ArcMap, which is what I use at work every day. So, okay, I see in here that I have a record that has some blank data for some reason. I must have not saved properly when I was creating this record. So I'm going to flash so I know which one that is. So that's this Devil's Den. And I'm just going to go ahead and in the attribute table, Devil's Den, add the information in there. I think I said it was 4 stars. And now that I've added this information, I need to go back to Edit to the Edit tab up here and click Save. And that's going to save this information in there so I can exit out of the attribute table. I could have also made those changes in the Edit tab with this attributes pane, but the thing about this is that you can't see all of your records at once. You can only see information about the record that you have selected. So you see it's going to change the information in here. So it changed this to Woolly Hollow. This is Queen Wilhelmina. So it's not going to show you all of this attribute pane is not going to show you all of the records that you have in your table. The only way you can see that is by right-clicking on your layer and opening the attribute table. So just make sure that you have filled out at least 7 records with 3 fields of data. We are going to share this newly created feature class to ArcGIS Online. You need to be signed in to the AEDI-GIS organization in order to do this. And by signed in, I mean signed in ArcPro. So up here, you need to show like your name and the organization that you belong to. It might say not signed in, and you just go ahead and sign in. Otherwise, you won't be able to share data to the online organization. Once you are signed in to the UA Little Rock organization in ArcPro, you are going to go to the Share tab, and you want to make sure that you have the layer that you want to share selected in your table of contents. So I have this layer that I created, Parks I Have Visited in Arkansas, and so you go to the Share tab, and so if some of these are like grayed out and you can't click on them, that means you're not signed in. What we're going to do is in this Share As group, we're going to share a web layer. We're going to publish a web layer. There's another option to overwrite web layer, which you would do if this layer already exists in ArcGIS Online and you've made some updates to it in Pro, so like in the desktop software, and then you want to add those updates to the online, you would overwrite a web layer. So when you click on Publish Web Layer, it's going to pull up this Share As Web Layer pane, and you're going to type in a name, Parks, Arkansas. I think you can have spaces in this name. Summary. This layer shows a few of the parks. So you have to include a name, a summary, and tags. So you can tag yours just like GIS1. That's fine. You click enter and it will add a like tag icon in there. I'll say Parks, Arkansas. And then for layer type, you want to leave it as a feature layer type. And then for location under folder, you may or may not have any folders available. If you do, it will probably be your root folder, so it will say root beside your name. You can see I have other folders in here from like, I have a class related folder. This is just, I've uploaded a lot of layers to online, and having these different folders helps me organize that. But I'm just going to save this, to my personal one. And then this was already selected because I was in here doing this a few minutes ago, but this share with will not automatically have something selected, or it shouldn't. You want to at minimum share this with the AEDI-GIS UA Little Rock group. Sometimes I err on the side of caution and share with everyone, and I'll do that if it's a layer that I'm going to publish to a map that I'm going to make an app with, and that I want the public to be able to view the app without having to log into a GIS Online account. So you can also add to groups. So you can see I have this GIS1 group selected here. So when I add this layer, when I publish it, it will publish not only to my personal content page, but also to the content page of our GIS1 group. So you can select that if you want, and then that will make it easy for me to see the layer that you created. So then you can select Analyze, which will look for any problems. I recommend doing this because there's always problems. And then you need to troubleshoot the problems. So this is a really common problem. Allow assignment of unique numeric IDs for sharing. Like, I don't know why this isn't automatically set to share online. So you can click Change Settings. That setting is selected. Let me go back to Messages. Change General Map Properties. So what is the issue here? Unique numeric IDs. So in this General tab, you're going to click Allow Assignment of Unique Numeric IDs for sharing web layers. And that will solve that problem. And now I can publish this because these are just warnings. They're not errors that will prevent it to be published. Oh, it is trying, it looks like, maybe to publish the base map. So that's silly and that's not what I want to do, and I don't think it's actually going to do that. So I'm going to ignore those error codes for now. I'm going to go back to General, make sure everything is as I wanted it to be. Looks like we're all good, and then I'm going to click Publish. And next, I'm going to show you guys where this publishes into your ArcGIS Online account, and we are going to look at the sharing permissions of that published layer, and then we are also going to add the layer to a web map online. And it's going to take a few minutes for it to publish. Once it does, you can follow the next steps in this video tutorial. When ArcPro tells you that your layer has been successfully published, you can save your map project and exit out of the software. And then you can go to arcgisonline.com, sign in, and go to your content group. That's going to be in this top white area. So go to Content. Now, for some reason, when I published my layer, it published this tile layer, so I guess it was publishing the base map, and I didn't want it to do that. I might have had something selected that I didn't need to have selected. So I'm in my contents, just going to delete this, and this will delete it from any of the groups or folders that I have it shared in. Now, normally when you upload a layer to ArcGIS Online, it is going to upload two different documents. You're going to have your actual layer and a service definition. Here in your content, you have your feature layer. You don't want to do anything to the service definition right now. Just kind of leave it be. We're going to click on the layer that you uploaded, and you can see it has the name that you gave it. This is the summary. The tags that you added to it are down here. Here's a URL to the layer and a little thumbnail. So in order to view this, I've been calling it the web map builder. It's actually web map viewer. I will try to change that in all of my video tutorials and documentation. So you're on your layer page and you can just open it in web map viewer. I have just opened my layer in the map viewer, and you can see that I uploaded both layers for some reason. I've used that share layer to online many times, and it's never uploaded two layers at once before, so I'm not really sure why it did that. However, I've seen, so basically this is a group for these layers, and you can pull this out and remove this county boundary from the group, remove this from the group, and then just delete this group so that I have my two separate layers in the map viewer. Now I want you to give your map a name, and the way that you do that is not by clicking on Untitled Map up here. What you do is click this Save button, and let's name it Skill Builder 3 Map. And tags GIS1, and then this map shows the layer I created for Skill Builder 3. So if you guys can please save the title and the summary as that, it will make it easy for me to see. Now that you have saved and named your map, I want you to do two other things. The first is to change the base map. You change the base map by clicking on this 3-dot ellipses on the left navigation pane, and you can select base map. It's going to pull up a ton of different options. I'm just going to do a simple imagery hybrid. And once you've changed your base map, I would also like you to add one more layer. It can be whatever you want, preferably something related to the layer that you created. So when you're on your layer tab, you just select add layer. And then at the top here, there's a drop-down menu, and you can change where you want the added layer to come from. So you have my content, my favorites, which is just your personal content, and other content that you favorited, then content that's held in some of the groups that you're in and your organization. I've never used subscription content before. And then we've got Living Atlas and ArcGIS Online. Living Atlas is curated, it's curated by Esri, and so it has a little bit more authoritative data, like you can trust the data to be a little bit more accurate, whereas the ArcGIS Online information is just any data that anyone has published to everyone that has, we'll see that in a second, how the publishing you can either share with yourself, your organization, or everyone, and that everyone shares it to this ArcGIS Online group here. So I would recommend going to ArcGIS Online, and I'm going to try and find a layer that's related to what I created. So maybe I'll type in Parks, Arkansas, and see if there's anything that makes sense. We've got some public lands. I think I just scrolled past Arkansas park locations. And so you can see there's 2 Arkansas park locations, one from 2021, one from this year, 2 different authors. I'm going to choose this Esri Training Service author. So I'm going to click the little plus button, and it has added it to my map. And now I can exit out of the add layer, and you can see all 3 layers here. You can remove layers by right-clicking on them and selecting remove. You can also view their attribute table. So like this is a lot of parks, way more than state parks. It must be city parks too. So if I want to see show table, I was looking for show attribute table, but in here it's short. It's just show table. And then you can make it larger and look at all of the different information. So it just has it by county. There's not a ton of information in this layer, but that's fine. Once you have changed your base map and added your second layer from ArcGIS Online, I want you to go ahead and save your map. You also should make sure that the layer that you created has all of the attribute values in there that you want. So you can see I clicked on the layer I created and pulled up the attribute table. And this is how I'm going to know that you guys created a layer or feature class with 3 fields as well as 7 or more records. So you see I have 8 records in mine. And you just go over here and click the save button and save. And now we are going to talk about how to change sharing permissions so that people within the organization can view your map and your data. So there's a couple ways to get back to the ArcGIS Online organization account. The easiest is to go over here, and I usually go to content, and it'll take you back to your personal content page, which is where we want to land. The last step of this skill builder is to change the sharing permissions for your web map, your feature layer, and your service definition. So make sure that you are on your personal content page, and the service definition, feature layer, and web map should be the first 3 things that pop up in your contents because it's usually sorted by modified date. So let's go to service definition first. And you can see on the right side underneath download and update, we have a share option. I've already changed my sharing, and I want you to change it from owner to organization. And we don't have to edit any group sharing, and just select save. Once that is saved, go back to your content page. And now we are going to update the sharing permissions for the feature layer. So click on your feature layer, and there's a lot more that we can do with the feature layer, but right now we are just going to also change the sharing level. So change it from owner to organization and click save. Lastly, we are going to share or change the sharing permissions for our web map. So go back to content, click on your web map, and then you'll see once again the share option down here. I want you to again change it from owner to organization, but I also would like for you to set the group sharing to our GIS one group. So I'm going to show you that again. So you click on share, and then you click on edit group sharing. And you can see I already have our GIS one group selected, but go ahead and select that for yours and click OK, and then save. And that is all that you need to do for Skill Builder number 3. Thank you for participating, and please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions.